Welcome to Kismet Mosaic. This is an instructional video for our Heart Mosaic Kit. I'm your host and instructor, Juanita Canzaneri. First, let me show you the contents of your kit. You will receive a small bottle of Aleene's Tacky Glue, 1 glove, 2 stir sticks, 2 blue shop towels, your wooden base, 1½ ounces of ceramic tile, 1½ ounces of glass tile, and ½ ounce of incidentals, 3 ounces of black grout, and 18 inches of ball chain. You will also need paper and pencil, some newspaper or scrap paper, a scissors, a plastic cup, and cold water along with paper towels. And so you can prepare for your project. Plan to spend about 15 to 20 minutes designing your project, about 30 minutes assembling your mosaic, 24 hours waiting for the glue to dry, 15 to 30 minutes grouting and cleaning up, and an additional 5 to 10 minutes finishing your piece. So let's start with designing your piece. With paper and pencil, you're going to trace around your heart. And then, just so you know where this scroll is going, it might be helpful to block that in. So then we're going to take our tile and dump them all out. Once you've got your tile all laid out where you can see it, you may ask yourself, what is that swirl line going to be? This is where our ball chain is going to go, as you can see in the finished piece. That's what this is. No, I did not lay each little dot in perfectly. It is a shortcut called ball chain. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start working with some of these shaped pieces, see where they might fit. Oh, I like that. Get a good big circle in there. Some of these rectangles can go. Now, some things to keep in mind. You will probably not use every tile I've given you, and you will not fill all of the spaces in between the tiles because you need space for the grout. So when you get to a point where you're overall pretty happy, and mine's pretty much a mess because things keep moving around, that's going to happen. It's not a, this is just to give you a feel for where you might want to go. It's a kind of a roadmap. Okay, so I'm going to put all of these to the side, out of the way. See, I just messed that up again, but I kind of know where I'm going. And then we can start working on our piece. Now you'll notice I have not opened the bag of incidentals. We will get to that. Now when you're laying out your design, let me point out again, you want to make sure that none of your tiles are overlapping. Well, mine are because they've moved. You want to make sure that none of your tiles are overlapping your ball chain area. So the first thing we're going to do, once we put this to the side, you cannot pick it up, slide it, is we're going to glue down the ball chain. So what I'm going to do is test my glue, make sure I've got a big enough hole, and if you just cut off that tip, you should be fine. I'm going to lay out a nice line of glue And this is probably going to be the fiddliest thing. And you'll notice I'm not really doing it in one whole straight line or anything like that. I'm just laying out what's comfortable, but in the end, all of that white line is covered. Then I'm going to start in the crotch of the heart and just maneuver that into the glue. And if you want it closer to the edge, move it closer to the edge. This V is kind of a imperfect V. I have glue in places I may not want glue later. For instance, right there I got a big glob. And you just kind of want to come in and clean up a little bit. Don't worry about the glue that's, sitting right alongside the ball chain. That will actually dry down a little bit, and you're not going to be placing anything right up against the ball chain. And at this point, if you wanted to spread this out and make it a little different line than I've given you, you can do that. It is a mess, and I'm probably wishing I hadn't done that by now. But this is why you have pencils and things. So let this set for probably a good 20-40 minutes and let the glue dry, set up a little bit. When you can come in and no longer wiggle things around, then we'll move on to the next step. Okay, so we're going to continue working on the mosaic. Let's see. This is probably not going to fit in that space any longer, so let's trade that out. Yeah, that'll work. So I'm going to put, you'll notice I'm shaking my glue rather than doing, careful, kind of an up and down motion. What you're looking for is centrifugal force. And that does help the glue to come to the tip. Between gluing, I lay the glue on its side. That simply helps to keep the glue at the tip or closer to the tip. Because when you are working and you keep putting your bottle upright, it's going to flow to the bottom. This way it's closer to the tip no matter what you're doing. So that's just a good habit to get into if you want. That happens to be my preferred way of working. It may not be yours. That's okay. So there are a couple of different ways that you can put tile down, glue tile. You can put the glue on the back and then place the tile where you want it. And your design is going to shift a bit, but this just gives you a bit of a roadmap. Another way is to lay out a line of glue like we did for the ball chain, and then just pop your pieces into it. And this is not an exact science. You are not looking to fill every single teeny weeny space at this point, or any other point actually. We will fill some of these spaces, but to be honest, you need space for the grout to go. So you want between 1/8 of an inch and 1/2 an inch between pieces, because that's what the grout says that it will fill. Let's see. And let me talk a little bit about which side of the tile to glue down. On the ceramics, it's really easy. You don't want to put that down because you don't want that to show, so you're going to put the glazed side up. With glass, it gets a little more interesting because you've got two sides. One has bumps and the other is finished. This is the face of the tile. This is the back. Should you choose to make the bumpy side the face, that's entirely up to you. You're welcome to do that. Just know that it will be harder to clean when you grout. But it's certainly up to you to do if you want to do that. But I think it's better if you know, rather than doing it because you're sure that's what's supposed to happen. It is a design choice. All right, I'm just going to keep filling this in, and you don't need to hear me chatter away. And the way that I tend to work with my mosaics is I fill in the tight places first, places I know are going to be an issue, then work the outside. Ooh, I've got a lot of glue there I haven't filled. And then I continue working the rest of the space. And if you're working, with loose glue, you want to make sure that you fill it up before it dries, because once it's set, nope, that's not going to work. Once it's set, it's really awful to try to clean up. So just keep that in mind. Work, and I will actually, don't like that. I have actually gone to the door and said, I can't talk, I have wet glue. I'll be back in a second. And then if you want to take up some glue that's left over and you don't feel like working that area just yet, you can take a paper towel or a bit of a skewer or something and just pick that up. Afraid that's going to be too long now, so I'll pick this up and put that down, and then this little baby can go in that spot. And I'm just going to fill in the rest of this. I think that fits better there. Okay, I'm pretty happy with where this design is at the moment, but I do have some spaces that, are not where I want them to be. That's when this little puppy comes into play. We're going to take our bag of adornments, and you'll notice these are so freaking tiny, some of them. We've got these tiny little squares that if I put a little bit of glue right there, these little squares will fit. I'll fit one in there. Even if it is sideways, it doesn't really matter. And then I can take some of these little rounds, which are called millefiori. And let's see what we can put in there. I might be able to get, pushing that a little bit out of the way, some more millefiori in there. And if you want, you can work these into your design as you are putting it together, but you can also wait until the end and just add a little bit of bling here and there. Let's see. That's not a good place because there's a hole there. How about this little bit? And if it helps, get yourself a pair of tweezers. Because although I've got fingernails, they may not be the best thing for this point. Come on, glue. There we go. And now I've forgotten where I was going to put it. So again, you don't want to fill up every little gap because you've got to leave some room for the glue. But these are just cute little things to add in where you think you might have a space that's too wide, or where you're going to make a space that's too wide. Let's see. There we go. I think I am happy with this. So I'm going to let the glue, oops, there's a little spot right there I want to fill. And I'm just putting a little bit of glue. Put a piece of millefiori in there. So I'm going to let this sit now for 24 hours because you want the glue to be completely dry before you grout. Because if it's not, and you start smooshing grout in, well, things are just gonna move where you don't want them to. So cleanup is basically putting everything back in a bag, and we've given you more tile than you need because, you know, that's just the way we are, or the way I am. This way you've got a head start on your next project. So we're going to stop here and I'll meet you back here again when we start grouting. Thanks for coming back to help us grout. So you want to have the following things at hand. You want a cup to mix your grout in. You want the bag of grout. Some room temperature or cold water. You do not want hot water for this. It will cause your grout to set up too quickly. You want the glove, the stir sticks, and the blue shop towels from the kit. And you want the project that you're working on. All of your tiles are glued down at this point. Nothing's falling off. Okay. So the first thing you want is a work area. I'm using newsprint. You can also use newspaper. And you want to start, put that to the side, by adding about half of your grout to your cup. You don't want to add all of it because if you get it too wet, you've nothing more to add. Then you want to take some of your water. I'm just using regular tap water. Add it in and then stir. And oh no! I've gotten mine way too wet. It's a good thing we reserved all of this, but I think this may even be too wet for that. So I'm going to dump some of this back. I may need more water. Doesn't matter if it's dirty or not at this point. I'm going to add more grout and just continue stirring. Oh, I like this better. The consistency we're looking for is smooth peanut butter. Smooth, creamy peanut butter, not chunky. And don't put peanuts in your grout. A little bit more because it's a little too loose. Oh, shoot. Well, now it's just way too dry. So, a little bit, not much, just a little bit. Add water by littles. It's kind of like making pancake batter, where you add too much liquid and you add more batter, and now it's too dry, and you add more liquid, and soon, before you know it, you've got pancakes for 120 people. Still a little bit too loose. I'm just going to go lightly. And black grout, because it's highly colored, is going to be deceptive sometimes in how it feels. You really have to do this by feel. Okay, I'm starting to like this a little bit more. You want it not to be pourable, so nothing's coming out. And you don't want it so stiff that you can see chunks or dried grout in there. So we're going to call this good. And you will see why you want a clean work area, or someplace you can just crumple it all up and throw it away. So then you want to put on the glove. I am right-handed, so I'm putting it on my right hand. Why am I not providing you with two gloves? Because the left hand doesn't really get dirty. So, taking this, and I'm just going to kind of sploosh some on here. Now, the goal in grouting is to smoosh it so that the grout gets between your tiles. And now my table's moving because I'm moving things. You don't want to grout it to the table, so I'm not going to keep it down and go all the way around. And I want to make sure I get that edge where the ball chain is. Now, if you don't have ball chain at your edge and you didn't do that step, that's okay. And you just want to look for any holes. And because I moved my thumb, okay, I'm not seeing any holes. So then I'm going to start, and I'm going to put this down carefully where I'm not going to pick up another schmutz of grout. And I'm just going to start taking it off with my fingers. Now you'll notice the area of the glove that is covered. It's just the length of my fingers, and not even my pinky. My left hand got dirtier than my pinky did. I'm not using my palm. I'm not really using my thumb either. And most of this I'm doing with just my middle finger. If you have a grout float, you're welcome to use that, but it's not really necessary because it's not a big project. Now, that's as much grout as this glove is going to get off because, well, it's kind of yucky. So I can take some paper towel that I have over here, and I'm just going to kind of take some of that off. Normally I'd do this over a trash can, but I'm on camera. So then I'm going to take my blue towel. And these are it's a brand called Shop Towel. And you want to start working in circles, and you're already uncovering tile. And I'm just going to continue to work in circles. And if that gets too messy, I'll just switch to another spot. Now, I do have little tiles in here that I need to find. I also need to clear off my ball chain. And look, you see where you're not seeing that swirl? We'll get there. But not with this messy towel. We're going to go to another section. It's kind of like when I take off my makeup at night. although I don't put this much makeup on. All right, I'm gonna get in here with my fingertip and just kind of clean that off. And if you can't get that with the fingertip, you can use the other stir stick. And because I'm not going all the way to the bottom of the board, I'm really just hitting the tops of that tile so I can get to it and clean that out. And it can take a little bit of work. There's another tile there I need to clean out. Something's in that space I gotta have. Oh, look, it's one of those little guys. And I know there's more here. So you just keep working at it until you've found all of the treasures you've hidden. And when you start smearing more grout on top of the tile, then you take off. You want to stop and let it sit up for about 24 hours. And I'll come back when it's all clean. Now I have a troubleshoot for you. So I was sure I had something in that space right there, but and so I've removed a lot of the grout. Well, no, there's nothing there. So you don't want to throw your grout out yet until you're completely sure that you're not going to need it anymore. So you see I just filled that in with a little bit of grout, and I'm just going to clean that off again, and I know there's nothing there, so I'm going to stop picking at it. And there we go. I'm going to let that sit until tomorrow, and then I'll show you how to do a final cleaning. And one more note. How do you get rid of your grout? Well, you put it in the trash. You do not put it in your drain because it is a cement-based product and your plumber will not be happy. So there you go. So now we're going to give our piece a final polish. You'll notice most of my ball chain is pretty well shiny. I'm just taking the other blue shop towel, I've wet it, and I'm just rubbing it against those pieces that are a little bit buried. And they come up pretty well. And if you've got some haze on your tile, this works great for that too. Now, and you'll see here it's a little bit harder, this is where the toothbrush of your enemies comes into play, or just a cheap toothbrush from the dollar store. Dip it in some water, give it a little scrub. If you don't have the toothbrush of your sworn enemy, you can also use a green kitchen scrubby. I wouldn't use it on dishes again after that though. Brush, brush, brush. And then take your blue kitchen towel and see how it's coming up. There we go. Nice. So you just keep doing that until you are happy with the results. Any questions? Send them to me at info@kismetmosaic.com. My name's Juanita. I've had a great time teaching you this instructional video. There you go. You're going to have dust. Dustpan and brush is great.